Buckeye Nation? You're now listening to the most opinionated, the most exciting, the most son of a Schmidt. You guys actually do something useful here, right? Like, is anything you do even beneficial to someone? Whatever. Now to the show that literally has tens, that's right, tens of followers. The show that brings the Ozone Radio Network to levels of mediocrity that only Michigan fans would know. This is the Sons of Schmidt, starring Mike Meals and Brandon Zimmerman on the Ozone Radio Network.
Hey, what's going on, Buckeye Nation? This is episode 1 of season 3 of the Sons of Schmidt podcast. I know everybody's all excited and you've been wondering where we've been, but we are finally back. Fall camp has broke. It is time for Buckeye football. Obviously, this weekend, Ohio State kicks off at noon, September 1st, against the Oregon State Beavers. So we're going to take a little bit here and go over a couple things. Of course, this is your host, Mike Meals. Joining me, as always, except for a couple times when he's not available, is my good buddy, Brandon Zimmerman. What's going on, Brandon? How you been, dude?
What's up, Michael? I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm here every time except for when I'm kind of too busy for you.
When you just don't care anymore? Is that how it goes?
No, like sometimes you got to travel. You got to live life. Sometimes you got to be with family and not just work for free.
Dude, you are a internet troll with a podcast. You're not allowed to have life, family, fun, anything. You need to stop it and stay in the basement.
Damn it. Now I know.
All right, man. So first things first, as I said, Ohio State's going to kick off this weekend, noon kickoff in the Horseshoe against Oregon State. Before we get into anything too in-depth or we start talking about where we've been and whatnot, is there anything you want to open with? Anything that you want to bring to the table?
No, I mean, it was fairly uneventful off-season, I guess. I mean, we really didn't hear too much about anything going on Ohio State-wise. So
very quiet,
I mean, I guess
right?
We'll just kind of, it was just super quiet. So I guess we'll just kind of sleepwalk through this podcast and kind of see where we come out.
Yeah, there was no reason to really do any podcasts over the off-season. There was nothing going on. So real quick, so everybody knows, what are you drinking tonight?
This is Texas straight bourbon. I was turned on to it from my good friend Billy.
There you go.
Texas guy.
I see. I'm going old school. I just busted out the straight Jameson myself. So, we're in for a good one. What we're going to do now, we're going to wow, I can't even speak. So this is going to be fun since we're recording this live. Instead, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the first segment of the show.
This is the Ozone Radio Network, a Hayes and Cannon production. For the latest episodes of all your favorite podcasts covering Buckeye Nation, look for the Ozone Radio Network on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Speaker. You can also find the latest episodes by clicking on the Hayes and Cannon tab at theozone.net. Once again, here are the Sons of Schmidt.
All right, guys, we're back. Thanks for the video input there, Brandon. That really helps make everything go well.
I was just counting down for you. We got to number 1.
I think you missed a finger, by the way. First things first.
I got the important one.
First things first. Let's go ahead and bring everybody up to speed. Obviously, there have been some changes here with the podcast and with the Ozone Radio Network and everything going on. So, those of you that have been with us for a couple years now know from last year we've made a bit of a change here on the Sons of Schmidt. Obviously, Michael Citro is now on the Silver Bullets podcast with Chip Minnick. Some things have happened. Life gets in the way, obviously, and Chip is running that with Michael, who is filling in for Shannon now because of Shannon's schedule and everything. So we've changed a little bit up. We went back to just Brandon and I, two old high school idiots, friends that get together and talk Ohio State football and whatnot. But a couple other things, obviously, that have changed. As I mentioned, we're recording this live and putting it out there just so you guys can hear all the stupidity that we tend to bring and had been editing out. But, the question that really that I would want to put out there, first of all, Brandon, is where have you been, man? What's been going on? Anything this offseason that's exciting and worth talking about besides the obvious that we're just going to avoid?
Well, I mean, I think this is the time that we were supposed to sit here and pretend like we were just so freaking busy that we couldn't record a podcast and stuff. But honestly, when it comes down to it, it's just a lot of work and we didn't feel like doing it. And it's off season. So
there's just not a lot to talk about in the off season.
No, I mean, you guys have got 30,000 podcasts out there. There's 4 billion websites. Y'all got your information that you need. We're here to just provide a little bit of entertainment, and you can call us more of a seasonal podcast now. I'm okay with that. But yeah, things have been good out here, Colorado. So just living the summer, trying to go on trips, trying to visit a lot of places before we move here in a few months. Don't know where we're moving to yet, wherever the Air Force decides to send us next. But right now we're just living the dream out in Colorado and trying to see everything it has to offer. Now the football season's coming up. We got a bunch of trips planned up, so it'll be fun to go watch some games. How's things been with you out there in Texas?
Hot. It's Texas. It's hot. It got hot in February, and it's still hot now. No, but for real, it's been pretty good. Obviously, there's still a little bit going on. There's still some stuff around here from Harvey. I know it's just the 1-year anniversary the other day. A lot of excitement in town for the Astros. So we went to, been to a bunch of Astros games and stuff. So, just kind of doing everything we could and trying to stay up with the Ohio State news as it's out there and not be too overwhelmed or flying off the edge one way or the other based off everything that was coming out. So, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the same deal here. You know what I mean?
Yep. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and touch on the little story that happened over the past few weeks. Just remember, this is college football. It's supposed to be fun. Whatever's happened in the past week has been pretty crazy. It's been a sucky month for most Buckeye fans. We've been attacked. The team's been attacked. There has been a lot of negativity from both Ohio State fans and from national media. Just remember, this is college football. Just have fun with it. If something upsets you that much, you need to kind of rethink things, look at different avenues. And I'll talk about this later too. So just have fun with it, man. This is college football.
Yeah, well, it's something that we mentioned multiple times last year, and it comes up every year when the season does roll around. You're exactly right. We have a finite number of these Saturdays to enjoy, and I know you and I were both similar in this, that college football is our favorite sport of the year. So you only have 12 regular games. If you're lucky, you get 13, 14, and 15. So, yeah, don't let it set your whole world. Enjoy the ones that you have in front of you, for sure, absolutely.
And just remember, be proud to be a Buckeye, and other people don't hate crappy teams. So if Ohio State was a crappy team, nobody would care. No one would give you a lot of crap. So take a little bit of pride in that. Ohio against the world.
There you go. So moving on from that, though, let's go ahead and recover a little bit here on the very limited amount of information that came out from fall camp, since people just decided they didn't want to cover the team when they were practicing and everything, so no media showed up.
Come on, Tony.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. Dude, obviously, the big story this week so far has been, Day and Shiano both met with the media, talked about some of the starters, the depth chart, reviewed a little bit of camp. It was really the first time they've talked to the coaching staff, the media has, since camp really started. What were your big takeaways coming out of the Ryan Day and Greg Schiano interviews that you've seen and read the transcripts from and anything that sticks out to you?
Well, the first thing, honestly, is I thought Ryan Day was awesome. I mean, like, that dude was so just calm and composed. And I mean, you think back to like when Luke Fickell took over after Tressel, and I'm a huge Fickell fan. Like, that dude is Buckeye through and through. I hope great things happen to him. But you could tell he was nervous. Mm-hmm. And of course, he was thrown into it right away. Like, there was no media ban like they had now. So, I mean, granted, Ryan Day had roughly a month to kind of gather his thoughts. But as you know, like Tony put out there, like, Ryan Day is 1-0 when it comes to the press conferences, because like that dude killed it when it came to the press conference. So outside of that, also big thing for me that came out, I loved how straightforward Ryan Day and Schiano were about the depth chart. I kind of hoped we would get a grasp on it, but I'm kind of used to here lately where the Buckeyes are more every position is listed as or and we are. Yep. I mean, and we aren't naming starters and stuff. And I mean, Ryan Day came right out and said, Michael Jordan is our center.
Yep.
Who, by the way, I called a long time ago before anyone else even knew that Michael Jordan was practicing at center. So I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back.
Hey, you got one right. Congratulations.
I know. You can check the tweets. Yeah, I called that a while ago. And it was just more of a feeling. Like, I hadn't heard anyone talk about it. I hadn't really seen him do anything. I mean, this was back before fall camp. It was just knowing what Ohio State looks for in their center spot. We all know, I've talked about it on this show quite a bit. Like, I just never thought Brady Taylor was going to be that guy. He just, in the limited amount of time that we saw, you just didn't kind of see that anger, that leadership, the strength, the kind of power, that offensive line that you're used to seeing from the Buckeye center. So Michael Jordan has that. I mean, like, that dude came in as a true freshman, took his spot, and has been running with it. Slide him over to center. Like, that's exactly what the Buckeyes were looking for. And that's why I kind of just felt like the Buckeyes would ultimately go with the Michael Jordan route, and that they always preach that they're going to go for their best five. Mm-hmm. And it's a matter of trying to find how to get that best five onto the field. And I just always felt that, Brandon Bowen, it turned out to be Malcolm Pridgeon, because Bowen's still recovering, forced them to move Michael Jordan over to center to get that best five in there. I still don't think we've seen the end of Brandon Bowen, as long as he can get all the way back to his health. A lot of people forget, like last year, he was the number 3 tackle going into the season and moved over to guard because they were trying to get their best five onto the field. So once Brandon Bowen gets fully healthy, I fully expect him to be in play at tackle, at guard, especially if someone like Thayer Munford, struggles out there at left tackle. I think ultimately they could slide Brandon Bowen in there as soon as he is healthy. So, long story short, I was stoked how just straight up and honest they were about the depth chart. We didn't really get too much, and that played over into today, Tuesday, as we are recording this, where there weren't many ors on the depth chart, which we just are used to seeing 15, 20 of those, even when it's just like blatantly fake stuff. Like, you will see an or thrown in there just to kind of give a senior some type of upperclassman depth chart nod type of thing. So how did you feel about how Day and Schiano did?
I tell you, I didn't really get to see a lot of the video as far as like seeing their actual reaction or anything. I was tied up with that, but I sat down and read the transcript from both interviews, and there were two things, and you and I had talked about this off air a little bit. Ryan Day is definitely a rock star. There is no doubt in my mind, if it's not at Ohio State in the future, that man is going to be a head coach at a big program sooner rather than later. And not just because of what he does, obviously, as a position coach and the way he handles the offense and everything, but just the way that, he seems to have his head about him. He has his head square on his shoulders. And if you read through it or you listen to it, even Schiano mentioned it, like Ryan Day has it, in air quotes, it. You know, he has that leadership, and he has that calming but intelligently in the moment kind of a thing about him. And that's something that you always want as your head coach, whether it's, you know, an interim coach on a 3-game basis, or it's your head guy that's going to be there for the whole season. And you know, and Ryan Day, I love the fact that he was straight out and flat and honest with people. Look, I wasn't in on the investigation into the Urban Meyer, Zach Smith situation. If you don't mind, I don't want to answer any questions about it because I don't know. And he just kind of left it at that, you know. And on the flip side, Schiano, who I still think Schiano is going to be a good college coach again. I mean, we saw what he did at Rutgers in the first place. For him to come out and just be singing the praises of Ryan Day, I think that says a lot to the entire staff, actually, and the group that Urban Meyer has together, because they know that, you know, Schiano knows he could have been out there and been kind of salty and been an ass about things, but, you know, especially after the way Tennessee happened. And there were some guys that asked him about that, but I'm not talking about Tennessee. He was singing Ryan Day's praises, singing the praises of the leadership, both of the staff and of the seniors and the upperclassmen on the team. And it was all about team. And that was something that you see and you hear over and over again out of him. So personally, I loved it. And it sounds like, you know, these 3 games, it might be a little awkward not seeing Urban on the sidelines, but I think the Buckeyes are in the best hands that they could possibly be in.
Well, and I think what you just kind of touched on, too, is why I'm not really concerned about anything that's been going on the past month. I know we've talked about it in our group text with a few other guys that, you know, since the very beginning, I've been pretty adamant that I don't think this is a big deal for the Buckeyes. You know, mainly because, like, Urban Meyer is great. Like, I love Urban Meyer as our head coach. I would not trade him for anyone on the staff right now. As great as I think Ryan Day did, there is no part of me that would rather have Ryan Day as head coach over Urban Meyer. Like, that's just silly to me. But Urban Meyer has built such a great staff, and I really feel like it's severely underrated even among Buckeye fans, but especially during the part of the national media, about how great this coaching staff is right now. And I doubt there's very many other staffs out there that could withstand what Ohio State's been through over the past 30 days. Just because of what he has developed and the culture that he has started there. And I know, like, Florida was rough. Like, I'm not even going to sit here and try to pretend like Urban Meyer was not a complete douche out there at Florida. Like, he's done some crazy things. There's just, you know, thing after thing that people can always point back to. And then we just have to live with that. But if you look at what he's done at Ohio State, he's been very clean. The program's been very clean. He's set a nice culture. And you talk to anyone that's a part of the football team, they will talk about the culture that he's done. But in this situation, more importantly, that coaching staff is just amazing. I mean, like, you look at it and you got former coaches and Kevin Wilson and Greg Schiano. You've got up-and-coming risers in Ryan Day and Alex Grinch. You got Larry Johnson, Greg Studera.
Coach Stud.
I don't even know how you say that.
Doesn't matter. We'll call
Coach
him Stud.
There you go. I should have went with Coach Stud. But, I mean, like, if you think about it, like, the weakest link is what? Bill Davis, who coached in the NFL as a linebackers coach for like 20 years, or Brian Hartline, who is a wide receivers coach now that played in the NFL.
And sat in that room as a wide receiver for Ohio State. Yep. And so he knows what they're going through.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's why, like, just with everything that's going on, of course I want Urban Meyer there, but whether Urban Meyer's there or not, this team this year, with the talent they have, they're going to go out there and kick ass no matter who they are facing, no matter who their coach is. They are built for this season. Yep. Now, if Urban Meyer's gone next year or the year after, who knows what happens down the road. This year, it doesn't matter who is coaching. Like, it is built for success, and they've got the people in place surrounding the program to facilitate that. Yep. And this is going to be a good year for the Buckeyes.
So, keeping in the thought of the coaching staff, I do have a bit of a question for you. And we're going to touch into a little bit of the roster build up here too. So obviously, we know Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson are kind of finally getting some pull and getting some input into the offense, the way the offense is structured. That's obvious if you look at the way the offense was set up this year already. My question for you is, as somebody who has wanted to see a Oklahoma-like offense when Sam Bradford was there and Kevin Wilson was the offensive coordinator, a passing attack. It's okay to be mobile, but a passing attack of the offense again, utilizing the good running backs. Do you think that those two had enough influence finally on the offensive game plan that this is what led to Joe Burrow ending up at LSU and Haskins actually winning that job?
That's a tough one, man, because I feel like they did have a little bit of say in it, but ultimately we know that Urban Meyer is just a control freak. So no matter how much power they have, Urban Meyer is always going to have a little bit more power when he's involved with it. I would say that's more of an option if Joe Burrow would have transferred, 3 weeks ago when Urban Meyer's gone and stuff. I think the Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins situation was just a kind of a whole different beast than we've ever really seen. Because there is, as much as there's a Joe Burrow camp and a Dwayne Haskins camp, even between both of those camps, I don't think there was ever any doubt that the other person could go in and be the starter for the Buckeyes. It's not like the Joe Burrow fans, and there are a bunch of them out there, and you still see that, especially yesterday when Joe Burrow was named the starter, that, there's a lot of Buckeyes that still feel very strongly about that. And who knows if it has to do with him being a Ohio boy, there's that loyalty that you want a Ohio person. So there's a huge group that just, if talent's even, Ohio boy gets the nod. So, but with the coaching staff, I just feel like Dwayne Haskins, and I mentioned it quite a few times, that if Joe Burrow would have not gotten hurt last year, Joe Burrow would be starting quarterback for the Buckeyes right now.
I believe that.
I have no doubt about that. He was going into the year. I know it was up to debate, but Joe Burrow was going
one of those oars.
Yeah, it was like one of the 74 oars that we would have saw on the depth chart last year. But then Joe Burrow went down, and it gave Dwayne Haskins, who was a highly touted guy, a guy that Urban Meyer wanted bad to come into his team, the chance to show what he could do. And Dwayne Haskins had his ups and downs early on, but getting that chance to go into Michigan Stadium and to bring the team back and to look as composed as he did kind of gave him that edge to it. So I don't think it was as much to do about Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson calling as it was just to unfortunate luck that Joe Burrow got hurt last year, and Joe Burrow had to look to do what was best for him. And I think he saw the writing on the wall that if it came down to a 50-50 battle, the coaching staff would rely on Dwayne Haskins more just because they knew what he could do in a pressure situation. So not only did he have to beat Dwayne Haskins in a one-on-one competition, he had to beat him by a lot to kind of get over that hump. So Joe Burrow had to do what he had to do, and I think he made the right choice. I think he, even went to a pretty good school. I still thought he was going to go to Nebraska or someplace like that, but who knows if he was blocked from them, just because they do face the Buckeyes this year. But I think he landed in a very good spot, and I think Joe Burrow's going to dominate this year. Mike knows that fantasy league between us and a few other writers that I've got Joe Burrow as my backup there at a quarterback. I'm going to wait and see what he can do. I know he's got the LSU curse working against him, but so yeah, I think it ultimately had a lot more to do with just the circumstances than it did Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson. However, I think this season's going to see a lot more Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson just because of their style. Just because of Urban Meyer wasn't around for fall camp. So a lot of the game planning, a lot of the practicing was geared towards more what they wanted to do, because that's what they have to do. Ultimately, like Ryan Day said, it's Urban Meyer's offense. But I think we're going to see a lot more of a Kevin Wilson type of offense that we've all been wanting and we expected to see this year than we have ever before.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're. I asked that question because it came into my head earlier today, but I was kind of curious because I think you're closer to being correct. I think that Day and Wilson may have had a little bit of input into that because we did see it last year with some of their offensive game planning and the calls that they like to make coming onto the field, when, for instance, like the run-pass option being utilized more and stuff. But I think you're right there. I think it was an unfortunate event that Joe got hurt, and that's what put him behind. I did see something, though, and that's what made me think of it, though. Think about a couple years ago, in that quarterback room, Ohio State had J.T. Barrett, Cardale Jones, Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, and Braxton Miller. That's a hell of a quarterback room right there.
I don't think Dwayne Haskins would have been in a room with Braxton Miller, but I digress.
Are you sure?
I don't think he would have been.
Why not? Before he moved to the wide receiver role.
Dwayne Haskins would have been a freshman for the Cardale Jones and J.T. Barrett year. Was Braxton around for that year? I don't think he was he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
Oh, damn. He might have been.
That was his wide receiver year.
Yeah, you're right. That was the year he transitioned.
Yep.
Yeah, because the freshman year was when J.T. Barrett stepped in after Braxton got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Next year he transitioned. Man, yeah, that would have been a pretty above average room that the Buckeyes had there.
So,
and we still just spent the whole year calling for Braxton to throw a dang pass.
But so I have one more question here before we move into the next little bit. But something else that was kind of raised a little bit, I saw in the notes from the press conference. How do you think Ryan Day is going to handle being able to balance between the play calling duties as the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator and game management in general? I know Kevin Wilson's going to be in the booth and they're going to work together, and I know the entire offensive staff is going to have input, but at the end of the day, it is still Coach Day's responsibility to be the play caller. That was part of his promotion last year, this offseason. How much do you think that that's going to be a burden on a coach trying to learn how to coach a game on a big stage like this?
I think it's definitely going to play a part. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. It's just like when Schiano was talking, I forget who even asked it off the top of my head. I'm just drawing a blank on it, but they specifically asked Schiano, be like, hey, are you going to be there to help Ryan Day and kind of help him through the coaching? And Schiano, told a story about his very first game as a head coach. They're standing there in the tunnel. He's ready to run out there, and he realizes he forgot his game notes. And so he, instead of asking somebody else to go grab it, like as head coach, he runs back there and grabs the game notes. And so I think, it's just like what I kind of talked about earlier. Like any other team, I think this would be a pretty big deal. I think having two former successful head coaches on the staff, and Greg Schiano and Kevin Wilson, and then very experienced guys and like Larry Johnson and Bill Davis, I think they'll be able to kind of help him out a little bit more than normal. Also with the play calling, I know he was named the primary play caller. I never really bought into that too much outside of giving him a title and a little more money to keep him from going off to Mississippi State or something. But I still think Kevin Wilson's very involved in the play calling. Kevin Wilson's one of the best offense coordinators in all of college football. So I think that'll allow everyone to kind of take a little bit of stress off of Ryan Day, and it won't be as bad. Ultimately, just like they were talking about during the press conference, the final say will come down to Ryan Day down there, but he's got a darn good support staff there with him, and I think they won't let him kind of fail. And luckily for Ryan Day, he's got two kind of exhibition type games to kind of work his way through and kind of fiddle his way and make a little screw ups here and there and have people help him out before he gets into TCU. I'd be a lot more concerned about it if they were starting with TCU game 1 going to Dallas than I am about starting against Oregon State and Rutgers. He will have time to kind of figure it out, but there will be problems, but it won't be as bad or even noticeable to us as fans sitting at home watching the games.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I think there will be a couple of times where it may get to be a little bit of a head, but I think you're right. And I was going to say this too. I think having Kevin Wilson in his ear in the booth will be enough to help remind him of, hey, we need to do this. You need to do this. We got to do this. Remember, we worked on this, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you're exactly right there. So last little bit here before we take our little commercial break with our new sponsor that we have for the week. We know the starters were named this week. Depth charts have been out. Biggest thing that you're looking forward to this year, any players that you think are going to make a big impact? I mean, there's obviously a couple that are going to be at the top of everybody's list. J.K. Dobbins, obviously everybody's watching. They're expecting him to be a Heisman hopeful. Personally, you and I have talked about this. I think people are overlooking how good Mike Weber is and how great he can be in this offense with J.K. Dobbins. We return all of our receivers from last year. Obviously, the defensive line is probably the greatest defensive line that Ohio State's ever had. There's a lot of talent at linebacker. It's inexperienced talent, but a lot of talent there. And we know how good the 5-4, 5-star defensive backs are that we've had in the backfield. Who are you looking forward to this season? Who's going to be the people that the people listening to this show should be watching?
Well, it's hard because, I haven't been trying to hide the fact that I've been fanboying the shit out of things. I am super stoked about this Buckeye team. I really feel like this is possibly the best Ohio State team that we've seen in a long time. It's a lot of unproven talent, but I feel like it's more talent there than we've ever seen. On the offensive side of the ball, outside of J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, who we both think are going to do great things, I really think people are underestimating Paris Campbell. I think this is a year we really see Paris Campbell just blow up and kind of dominate. I know, especially today, when you see him not on the depth chart, everyone's kind of asking where DeMario McCall is. And, I really think he is a great player. And as I said to some people earlier, there's no doubt in my mind that I think that DeMario McCall is going to be a Heisman candidate next year. But to think that he was going to come in this year and unseat KJ Hill, who I've said numerous times, and both of us have been talking about him for a while, we think KJ Hill is the best wide receiver on the team. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of in a numbers situation. And Paris Campbell, there's just no way that's going to happen. So McCall, great player, dynamic every time he touches the ball. It's just he's not going to touch the ball many times this year. Paris Campbell will. And I think Paris Campbell is going to have a lot of growth from last year to this year. I think Dwayne Haskins is going to be able to kind of hit him a little more on those little short, the rub routes, the crossing routes. And Paris Campbell, he's proven time and time again, if he can get hit on those little short crossing routes, he's gone. There's not many people in college football that are going to catch him. And I think with Dwayne Haskins, more of a pocket passer, who also showed during the Michigan game how good he is about moving outside of the pocket and just kind of leading the wide receiver just enough to kind of get that crossing route. KJ Hill killed Michigan with those, where Dwayne Haskins would stand in the pocket. KJ would be crossing. Haskins would kind of roll out just a little bit just to give that little bit of room and use his arm strength, and KJ Hill would just take off. So I think we'll see that with a lot with Paris Campbell this year. So offensively, I think Paris Campbell's going to be the big guy. Austin Mack, I got to mention him. Who knows if he'll have a great year, just how much the Buckeyes rotate out their wide receivers. But I'm a huge fan of Mack, and I think Mack's a great wide receiver. Defensively, I'm not going to touch on the defensive line too much. We all know that they are great. The guy that I'm very excited to watch is Baron Browning. I really think that dude, whether he's at middle linebacker, which he will be this Saturday, or outside linebacker, he'll probably move to next week when Tough Borland plays. I think Browning's the one that could be that dominant type of linebacker that we've been looking for, that we thought Jerome Baker was going to be last year, that we watched in Ryan Shazier. I think Browning has the possibility to even be better than Raekwon McMillan was as a linebacker for the Buckeyes. So he's the one on the defensive side of the ball that I'm really anxious to watch out there.
Yeah, see, on defense, I know, I kind of got made fun of a little bit for this at the beginning of last year. And as he started to get his feet underneath him, people started to come around. And he started going from the defensive liability to the, hey, he didn't mess up, to, hey, this guy's going to be pretty good. And then he went in and won like the, Big Ten indoor 50-meter dash or something as the fastest guy in the conference. I think Kendall Sheffield is going to have a breakout year, and he's going to be the next first-round draft pick from the defensive backfield for Ohio State. I'm really high on him. I know Okuda's going to play a lot, and he's going to be good, but I am really high on Sheffield. You and I share the sentiment as far as Baron Browning. I've been high on him since he was in high school down here in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. I think he's going to just show how good he is, and his versatility playing in and outside linebacker is going to be great. But on defense, I'm going with Sheffield. On offense, I can't really fault your picks one bit. I told you at the beginning of this that I'm huge on Weber. I love Weber. I've been a Mike Weber fan since the day before he got to campus, and you can attest to that. But Paris Campbell is going to be the offensive MVP in my mind. J.K. Dobbins is going to get his 12 to 1,700 yards, and Weber's going to have 1,000 yards, and it's going to be all great and dandy. But Paris Campbell is going to be the big playmaker. Looking at that, though, just real quick before we take our break, on the reverse of that, my biggest concern on offense is going to be not so much Haskins himself, but is just the same thing we've said the last couple of years, is can the offensive line gel? I know we're putting the 5 best players out there, but can they gel? And then on the defense, it's the same thing, but with the linebackers, is are we going to be able to get the 3 best linebackers out there and get them in position? Is there anything that has you slightly concerned?
Honestly, no. I was very pleased with how the linebacker depth chart turned out this year, because you think about years past, even last year, like usually upperclassmen kind of get the nod, even if they aren't technically the best 3. If they're even somewhat close, it seems like they do. And that's why you saw like Dante Booker out there last year, and Chris Worley, who was great at times, but also a little bit rough at times. So this year, seeing, what was it, like junior, sophomore as the starters, and guys like Dante Booker as the backup, guys like Keandre Jones, Justin Hilliard, who are all upperclassmen compared to the people that are starting over them. I think I don't know how much of it has to do with Ryan Day or Urban Meyer or Bill Davis back there in the linebacker spot, but I was kind of very pleased with how we saw a bunch of underclassmen, guys we saw on special teams last year kind of make plays, guys we saw in the spring game making plays, beat out those upperclassmen who were kind of next in line. So I was pretty pleased with how the depth chart turned out. We'll see how these younger guys do. At least they're getting the opportunity. But I'm really anxious to see how it all works out next week when Tough Borland's probably back full time. I mean, as I tweeted out today, like there's no doubt in my mind that Tough Borland could start on Saturday and be fine. I don't know if I would risk that, though. Just let Baron Browning play middle linebacker, let Pete Werner get some action against a really bad Oregon State team. Next week, kind of work Tough Borland in and see how Browning, Pete Werner, and Malik Harrison all kind of work out and see what the Buckeyes are going to do with them then. And against Rutgers, getting ready for TCU. So unlike in years past, I'm actually really pleased with how the depth chart turned out this year.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to take ourselves our little commercial break here. We're proud to announce we have a sponsor for the week, so we're going to play our commercial here for Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot of Corvallis. So we will be back in just a minute. When football is life, and life has you unable to win a single conference game, be sure to visit Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot of Corvallis.
At Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot of Corvallis, we have all the essential tools to help you not muff the punt during the upcoming Beaver football season. The more you drink our fine beers and spirits, the more you will realize that things aren't that bad. Sure, the Beavers went 0-9 in conference play last year.
Sure, the same conference who whooped on the Beavers went 1-8 during the bowl season and set a record for the worst performance by a conference ever. But don't focus on the bad. There were positive things. They did beat Portland State by 3 points. It's not like they were some FCS school who went winless.
Wait, what? Portland State went 0-11 in FCS play, and the Beavers only beat them by 3 lousy freaking points? You all need to drink on us. Come to Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot, where we have the second best store in all of Oregon. Second to our big brother store, Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot of Eugene.
Be sure to stop by our second best location, only a missed field goal away from Reeser Stadium. And if you're in the mood for a better option, visit our location in Eugene. We can help you, just do it.
Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot of Corvallis. Even though we always lose, we still booze.
All right, so thanks again to Uncle Phil's Liquor Depot of Corvallis for the sponsorship this week. We're glad to have you on board. Brandon, for segment 2 here, couple things that we want to look at, right? Obviously, we're going to really dive into looking forward into Oregon State, not so much just trying to recap the roster buildup or fall camp or anything like that. Just kind of go over your thoughts on the way, obviously, Ohio State just is astronomically better than Oregon State on paper, but, looking forward to this matchup here. We'll kind of go over and then we'll get some player of the game and some predictions here in a little bit. So, like I said, first things first, recap Oregon State for us and let me know what you think about them.
Well, Mike, they are a pretty crappy team.
They are terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like this is going to be a tough game. I know, you look at message boards and stuff, and people are like, oh, I'm not quite as confident about Ohio State's chances. Ohio State's going to dominate. Oregon State is probably the worst Power 5 team, and that is talking knowing that Kansas is in the Power 5. So, Oregon State is not good. They don't really have anything that should scare Ohio State. I mean, sure, if roughly maybe 60 of the Buckeyes got injured during stretching, it might be a little bit of a game. Even then, I would still kind of trust the freshman squad to go in there and handle business.
Give me the Buckeye walk-ons in that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Lord Farquhar would go out there and dominate.
Did you just drop a Shrek reference on us?
Yeah. Did you see my tweet? What was it, last week? I saw that there is a walk-on freshman named Lloyd McFarquhar.
No, I missed that.
I will never see his name without calling him Lord Farquhar. So, Lloyd, I love you, man. You would go out there and dominate. So, you look at Oregon State, and really the big thing that I've been watching for them lately is just trying to see how their quarterback situation played out. Would they go with Lutton? Would they go with Blunt? Ultimately, like we all kind of thought, they went with Lutton as the quarterback. He was kind of guy that kind of split time last year, really didn't do anything too special. Threw for 853 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks.
But he only
Lutton,
played, 4 games, though?
Yeah, it was something like that, like 4 games. He did not play a lot. But they've also got Blunt, who's more of the mobile type of guy. So Lutton is the starter, but I fully expect we'll kind of see a lot of Blunt playing because let's be real, like you get a pocket passer back there with an average offensive line against the Buckeyes defensive line, and Lutton's going to take a beating. So they're going to have to use a running quarterback to kind of get the Buckeye defensive line a little bit off of their game, sort of like who is it Indiana did with a Diamont back in the day where, like, I forget who the starting quarterback was for the Hoosiers, but like he just really wasn't doing too much. They brought in Xander as the freshman running quarterback, and the dude ran for like 200 yards. So I can see Oregon State trying to do something like that, where they bring in Blunt as more of a change of pace type of running back at the quarterback spot. So, but really, I mean, gosh, I wish I could sit here and try to pretend like I have faith that Oregon State's going to do something, but they just really are not a very good team and Power 5 team, but they're like barely Power 5. They're a step above you and I going out there and being a team.
Well, you know, when you look at the reports coming out of Corvallis and you look at like the makeup of that roster right now, Oregon State's strength is their offensive line. They return, we figured, somewhere 4 or 5-ish starters on the offensive line. Their probably their best player on offense is their left tackle, who, you know, with a pocket passing quarterback is obviously going to be a big step for them to get better this year. But when you think that their best unit as a team has to play against Bosa and Young and company, that doesn't bode well for them when their best unit's not really all that good. Their best wide receiver is the tight end. He's out for, I think, 4 weeks now. It's not going to be pretty. On the defensive side of the ball, Oregon State is making the transition this year under their new head coach to a 3-4. I know a lot of people have been talking about this, a 390-some pound nose tackle that they have. But on the depth chart that I saw today, he's not even listed as their starter. So I don't know how much playing time he's going to have. I know they've mentioned in reading some of the interviews that their defensive line will rotate just like Ohio State's does. But, I don't really see that being much of a problem or a matchup. But what do you see, if anything, there? Anything?
Yeah, the defense tackle you're talking about is Idon. He's 6'3", 378 pounds. Like, that is go. A short, stocky, big dude. The guy that was named starter ahead of him, I'm going to butcher the crap out of this name, but Vaca Mialalelo is still 6'3", 322.
Is that Manti Te'o's girlfriend?
Yes,
okay.
That is common spelling too. But he's still listed at 322 pounds. So they've got the big guy up there at the nose tackle. As you kind of mentioned about before, if there is any concern about the Oregon State offense, it kind of relates back to my PTSD from the Iowa game, where they do like to focus on running backs and tight ends, which kind of more leans on the Buckeye linebackers, which we've seen a little bit up and down. The tight end for them that they are missing this week is Togai, and he led the team in receiving last year. So Oregon State does like to use their tight ends. You also factor in that their top 2 running backs last year combined for almost 45 catches, which also would rely on the linebackers. So if there's any fear for me at all, it's just seeing how the young linebackers react to playing pass coverage when you've got a team that focuses on their tight ends and focuses on their running backs as much as Oregon State does.
Okay. Now, looking at the matchup, though, what is going to be what is going to be the factor that actually causes any heartburn for Buckeyes fans? Because let's be realistic. You said it yourself. We could lose 60 guys in stretches, and we're still taking Ohio State in this game. But what is going to be that heartburn matchup on both sides, if either side, besides is it just the linebackers covering their tight ends and running backs, or is there something else that you think Oregon State's going to try to exploit? Let's put it that way.
It's going to be a lame answer because I don't think there's really any matchup that Oregon State can exploit. So the answer I'm going to go with is the biggest matchup for us to watch during the Ohio State game is the Ohio State's hearts versus their heads. And this has been a very mentally draining past couple of weeks for all these players. Like, they can come out tonight, you got Paris Campbell and McLaurin and all these guys saying we're just angry, we are focused, but ultimately it's been a very wearing month for them mentally. So mentally they could be exhausted more than they've ever kind of led on to any of us. I mean, as fans, we're kind of mentally over all of this crap. So imagine being a player for that team, knowing Urban Meyer and working for him and knowing Zach Smith. So heart, I know Ohio State's going to want to go out there and just dominate. I mean, that's what they're going to be. Shane Falco taught them, it's all about heart. So, and he's a former Buckeye too. So, but
he cost me a bunch of money in that Sugar Bowl.
Yep, he did. But is their heart going to be enough to outweigh the mental stress that they've been over the past couple of weeks? So, to me, the only matchup that could screw them up over the day on Saturday during those couple hours is just if they're just mentally tired and they need a few, quarters to kind of get into things. But I think ultimately, just like I've mentioned numerous freaking times here, is that like the coaching staff that they have is just kind of perfect for this situation. I think they're going to have them ready, and I think they're going to wind up dominating. But if there's anything that worries me, it's just because that all this has mentally weighed them down.
I got you. Yeah, see, when Ohio State has the ball, I'm not worried about Oregon State's defense one bit. If nothing else, because all Dwayne Haskins has to do to beat Oregon State is take a snap and turn to his right or his left and hand the ball off. No matter if the offensive line has gelled or not, with those two running backs, he never has to throw a pass in this game, and Ohio State would walk away with a victory. No doubt in my mind. The defensive back seven, I'm not concerned about per se. I'm just, I want to see them execute within themselves well. That's the matchup that I have in mind. It's kind of the same thing you are, but for me, it's more of they have to actually play their assignments the correct way rather than worrying about getting beat on a potential, play action long ball or something. Something like that's going to happen. I think Ohio State's going to come out a little sluggish up front, more so than what we're used to in season openers just because of the last month and a half or whatever it's been. But I think once the pads start cracking and you're not hitting somebody in scarlet and gray, I think the boys are going to be all right. But on that note, what about your offense and defensive player of the games? Who's going to be the stars of this game for us on Saturday?
It's going to be rough because games like this is always kind of hard to pick these because you don't know how long people are going to play. So I think in this game right here, I'm going to go with Dwayne Haskins. I think we'll see a lot of early on, throwing the ball quite a bit because they know they're going to score big. We've seen this with the Buckeyes in the past where they are playing pretty bad teams and they come out and just throw the ball. And you saw JT Barrett throw for 5 touchdowns in the first half and stuff. I think we'll see a similar type of thing with Dwayne Haskins where he just comes out, puts up a lot of points, throws for a lot of touchdowns. More than we see J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber running the ball. I feel like this is one of those games where we'll be lucky to see J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber get 10 carries each. just because there's going to be a lot of points scored, and there's going to be a lot of Paris Campbell and Austin Mack running wide open type of things where they get long touchdowns. So I think it'll be Dwayne Haskins on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I really think this is going to be like the game that the nation realizes how good Chase Young is. We all know how good Chase Young is. Every Buckeye knows how good Chase Young is. But I think you're still going to see Oregon State kind of focus on Nick Bosa and Draymond Jones and leave Chase Young in one-on-one situations. And I would not be shocked at all if Chase Young came away from this game with like 4 or 5 sacks, just because Oregon State doesn't really know what he is yet, and I don't think we'll see that at any other point during the year. But this game right here, with all the focus on Nick Bosa and Draymond Jones, the known commodities, I would not be shocked if just Chase Young just went in there and dominated this game. Where are you at with offensive and defensive?
It's actually funny. I think Haskins is going to have a good game, but my pick is the guy that's going to have the best stat sheet at the end of the day on the offensive side of the ball is actually Tate Martell. And it's only because I don't see Haskins playing more than 2, maybe 2.5 quarters. Basically just enough to get your feet wet, make some passes, build the confidence, build stuff going to Rutgers, and then Tate's going to come in and run for a while, and I think he's going to have a pretty good game. But I think Haskins is going to get comfortable. So it depends on if you're going by stat sheet or by who looks the best. So I too am going with the quarterback position. On the defensive side of the ball, as much as I love Kendall Sheffield, I'm actually going to go with Okudah here. I know he's the third cornerback, but what that also means is once the starters start getting pulled, I see Jeffrey Okudah playing a lot more, and I can see him showing the world who he is. Number 1 or number 2 guy coming out of high school. I think he was the number 1 guy, right? But, he's going to step up, and it's time for him to start making those strides, too, to start building and going forward. So that's who I'm going with. What about a prediction? You got a score prediction for us?
1,000-0. No. Yeah, I mean, gosh, I was trying to think of this today. I know Tony will be running his predictions article later this week, so he'll be asking us for our scores at some point. And I was trying to think of what I would go with. And I mean, I really think, and just as I wrote about, I really think that Ohio State's going to come out angry. This is going to be a whole different team than we've ever seen, where I don't think they're going to go into cruise control mode as early as we see. I really would not be shocked if it was something in like the 72-13 range, somewhere around there. I'm sure. I don't think Oregon State will score on Ohio State's starting defense. I could see them breaking a long one at some point against the backups. I could see them getting into field goal range a few times. So, I mean, gosh, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be homer the crap out of this, and I'm going to say 72-13.
See, when I was doing mine on the article I wrote for this week, I really tried to stop and think about what Oregon State could do. And there's 2 things that come to mind. One is, no matter what happens, Ohio State always has a fluke touchdown that they give up. Like a couple years ago, they played Navy at home to start the year, I think it was, and it was a little screen pass that went for like 70 yards, right? So there's going to be some kind of mental breakdown at one point that Oregon State's going to get lucky. I see them scoring a touchdown. I don't know exactly how it happens, but I see that. And then once the second and third team guys come in, it's kind of over. But I think Oregon State could end up with about 17 points. Now, for Ohio State, you and I were talking about this before we started recording. I think the last time they dropped 80 was in like 1950, and I would love to see that, just everybody just pissed off and ready to go. But I still think that the coaching staff is going to rein them in a little bit. So my prediction for the week was 63-17. So yeah, it's not going to be close, and it's not going to be pretty. So anything else you want to throw in there before we go and break out our last segment here? I think you're muted because I can't hear you.
Shh. Yeah, I mean, just have fun with this Saturday. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch a bunch of Buckeyes that we saw last year mixed in with a bunch of new guys. And I don't think any of us have anything to worry about this Saturday. I guess famous last words. But, enjoy your family, enjoy the game, enjoy seeing Buckeye football again.
Absolutely. All right, man, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll slide into the Sons of Schmidt here.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for your favorite weekly segment.
Son of a Schmidt.
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 All right, Brandino. I know you've had one you've been working on for a minute, and I know it's been eating at you because we've been talking about it. But, we introduced the Son of a Schmidt segment last year, and it seems to be a good little time for us to really rail on some shit here. So why don't you go ahead and give us the breakdown on yours?
I'll be a little calm with it. I already kind of tweeted about this a little bit, I think a week or two ago, and especially is kind of pertinent to a situation that's going on right now for Ohio State. But, I really cannot grasp people's thought processes behind knowing there are certain writers out there that specifically make a living out of pissing off Ohio State fans and saying the most absurd things alive, and Ohio State fans feeding into it. And I just don't get this. So, you look at the Ohio State situation that's going on. If you guys haven't heard, Urban Meyer's and some shit. So,
wait, what?
Yeah, apparently it happened. It snuck by on Facebook or something.
Oh,
we're still a little too young for
one.
Facebook, apparently. Yeah, so I'm still on MySpace, so I don't know. But the you've got guys like Brett McMurphy, guys like Clay Travis, guys like Ari Wasserman, guys like
Mark May
that are, they are doing their job, and you cannot be upset at them for that. I have never read any article from any writer ever and gotten personally upset about it. I think it's stupid. I get, I kind of laugh it off, but I don't get to the point where I become angry about it because they're doing their jobs. Every one of them are doing their jobs. But the thing that I just do not get is, they are doing their jobs, and their job may be to rile up the largest fan base in all of college football. And they're doing it specifically to get retweets, to get attention, to get as many views onto their piece of crap article that they can possibly get. So people read this, and they're like, you know what? Dang, this person is writing this article specifically to make me angry, and it has made me angry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to retweet it out to all of my followers and let them know how angry I am about it so that they can be angry about it. And they can also read the article and give it a click and then retweet it out to all their friends. And it's this vicious cycle of suckiness that I feel like could be stopped at the very beginning. So, there are definitely people out there that are specifically in their positions with their companies to make Ohio State fans angry. And y'all fall for the trap every time. And I just do not understand that. So,
now,
go for it, Mike. What's up, man?
Disclaimer, when I retweet your articles that are crap, you should click on those because those are worth reading. They're not there to make you angry. They're just crap. There's a difference. We need to make sure we clarify that.
Yeah, there's a very big difference between crap and craptastic. Mine is craptastic, okay? So, if you see something that makes you angry, just kind of let it live in your soul a little bit. Don't let it live on Twitter, okay? So, It just like I just do not grasp this concept. I never have. I just don't understand giving someone attention who's seeking attention. It's like back in the dating world, like if you wanted someone to like you don't show them all kinds of attention and stuff, like you kind of play it hard to get, pretend like you don't care about them. Just do the same with guys like Clay Travis. Like just pretend like you don't care, and eventually they will come around to the Buckeye fold, or they'll just go away. So either way, you win out in life there. So son of a Schmidt, stop retweeting out stuff that pisses you off.
See, I'm a little heartbroken because sometimes I feel like that was aimed at me a little bit too, but mine's usually not the Ohio State stuff. It's the other stuff that pisses me off that I retweet. So,
Mike, if it makes you feel better, you were muted a long time ago, and I don't see anything that you tweet out.
I believe that. I believe that very much so. All right, so for my son of a Schmidt, I want to start by putting out a little disclaimer. For those of you that don't know, Brandon and I are both members of the FWAA, the Football Writers of America Association, or Association of America. Or it's one of those combinations of letters. But anyway, so we get these press releases from the National Football Foundation and a couple other places that are emailed to us and whatnot, so we can keep an eye on things that are going on. And we got one here just recently about the rule changes for college football for the 2018 college football season. And some of these make good sense, like the fair catch on the kickoff, which is one that may eventually affect Ohio State because they're trying to take away the plan of like what Urban Meyer likes to do, where he'll, try to pooch it into the corner at like the 5-yard line, so they have to return it. If it's fair caught there, then the ball is just like a touchback. It's on the 25-yard line. A few other ones, blocking below the waist penalties, and penalty enforcement on field goals, little stuff like that. But let me read this one to you. Over the past several years, we have seen a trend in players' pants getting shorter. This has a safety component, as exposing the knees without padding means a risk of knee injuries and lacerations, and it is detrimental to the look of the game. In 2017, the Rules Committee declared that beginning this year, the legal uniform will include knee pads in the pants with the knee... hold on, I lost my place. With the knee pads and pants completely covering the knees. Officials are mandated to enforce this rule strictly by not allowing players to be in the game with pants that do not completely cover the knees. Uncovered knees will indicate illegal equipment. The player must leave the game for at least one down, and they may not return until the equipment is legal. So they're going to enforce it kind of like the helmet coming off rule. If your knee is not covered by your knee pad and your knees and everything, you have to go. An extension of that is obviously the Ezekiel Elliott midriff showing is not allowed anymore also. My problem with this is the line in here from the National Organization of College Football Officials that says this is detrimental to the look of the game. Just come out and say that you guys don't want knees exposed, because that is the key point of the whole thing. You don't want these players having their knees exposed because you don't like seeing it. Because anybody that has played football at any level knows that half-inch little piece of pad that is a knee pad is not protecting you from anything but bumping your knee against someone's helmet. Case in point, think about it at the high school gyms that you went to, and they have that foam padding that's covered at the underneath the basket, on the wall. That thing's great if you bump into it. But when you get pissed off and you walk up and punch it, do you know what happens, Brandon?
What, Michael?
I figure you would know firsthand knowledge. You break your damn hand. That foam padding is not doing any good. It is there just to stop a bump. It is not there to actually protect the knee. It's not going to stop you from blowing your knee out. If you look at any offensive or defensive lineman, they all have knee braces on. Every college makes their linemen wear it. You guys, this is strictly a uniform code. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and it's going to come out, and you're going to have it happen. some stud wide receiver or something, because it's always the pretty boys that have to do this, their knee's going to be exposed. They're going to have to come out of the game at a critical junction, and it's going to really piss some people off. It's just, I hate dumb rules. Stop messing with stupid rules and putting them into sports trying to make the game better when you're not. It's no different than MLB trying to say, hey, let's put a runner on second in the top of the 10th if we're in extra innings. Stop messing with my damn game. Son of a Schmidt.
Get off my lawn.
Angry man
up your whole thing.
a cloud. Oh, man. All right, buddy. We'll take a quick second here, and we'll be right back to close everything down. All right, brother. We are back. We're about to send this one home. We're going to put a little bow on it and ship it all off to Tony and the boys at the Ozone. Before we get out of here, and I know that it'll be sprinkled throughout the show as you get going, but make sure you're paying attention to, obviously, not just the Sons of Schmidt with Brandon and I, Silver Bullets podcast now with Michael Citro and Chip Minnick, obviously Across the Field with Tony and Tom from the Ozone, the Buckeye Sloopcast. Basically, if you go through every day of the week, you should have a new podcast episode out there for you from the Ozone Radio Network. Subscribe on iTunes. We're on Google Play, and about a half dozen any other places that you can find your favorite podcasts. Obviously, on the theozone.net website, if you click on the Hayes and Cannon tab, you'll see the drop down for the podcasts. You can see everything that'll be posted there. Definitely worth checking out. I know Shannon's been busy and whatnot, but if you missed the first episode of the Silver Bullets podcast with Chip and Michael, they've done a great job. Those two really work well together. Obviously, the Buckeye Sloopcast has been around for a long time. It's a great podcast if you're looking for some more Ohio State stuff. And our inside guys, Tom and Tony, they run Across the Field, and they do that one a couple days a week, and they bring a lot of the beat stuff. So if you're looking for the day-to-day beat, definitely worth checking out. So, Brandon, on that note, man, you got anything else you want to close down with?
No, I mean, I think from Mike and I's standpoint, we kind of, honestly, I'm going to be honest for a second. We kind of lost our way a little bit. We kind of went away from what we normally do. And I promise to you this year that I think Mike and I are going to go back to doing what we do and what kind of made our show unique from the past. We're going to have fun. Hopefully we're not fired after this episode, and we'll be back next week just kind of doing what we do. And it's just two guys that have known each other for 20 plus years now.
Right.
Having fun, and just kind of doing the things that we want to do, not the things that other people want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what made this fun from the get-go for us. That's why we do it, because we had a blast with it. I know, like for me personally, it's kind of extended out. I've gotten back into writing again for the Hayes and Cannon there. After last year, obviously a year ago this week, I had more important things on my mind. It kind of took care of the rest of the year for me. A lot of my free time went to taking care of various things around the community here in the Houston, Texas area. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad we're back to being just complete recorded idiots on here, because that's where we always had a good time. But other than that, man, I'm ready for football. God, I'm ready for football.
Yep, I think we all are.
So, all right, dude. Well, in that case, let's ship this one out, man. OH.
I-O.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Buckeye Nation, make sure you're getting the latest news and episodes from the Sons of Schmidt podcast. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sons of Schmidt. You can follow us on Twitter at Sons of Schmidt, or email the show, sonsofschmidt@gmail.com. And look for us on Hayes and Cannon at theozone.net.